Hi, I'm Jared JJ Hinch, and I'm this year's play-by-play announcer for the State LEGO Tournament. First of all, we're going to talk about First LEGO League's Nature's Fury. And today, I have got Steve Braley, who is head of officiating. Steve, can you, first off, let's start off talking a little bit about what we're going to do with our robots here.
All right, well, we'll start with, this is the base for the starting position, and the teams must start in this area with the robot completely inside an imaginary box that's 12 inches high and bounded by these two sides right here. While it's in the base, they can freely touch their robot, they can add attachments, remove them. Once they decide they're ready to start though, they must simply start it, and the robot must leave on its own, do its missions, and then come back unaided if the team does not want to receive any additional penalties.
Now, when you talk about penalties, what would be a penalty?
A penalty would be if the robot comes out and gets hung up on some obstacle and is no longer able to return on its own, the team can come out and grab it by hand and bring it back to its base. That would be assessed what they call a touch penalty. There are a couple other penalties, such as if the robot comes out and leaves debris on the field, such as attachments they have, that would be called a junk penalty. Another one is, if we talked about the base being only so big, if they have a robot that actually expands into a much larger area, an area that's bigger than twice the width of the base, and stays in that state, that would be considered a sprawl penalty.
So what are we going to start off with our first mission here?
Well, we have a variety of missions. The first one we can look at here is this tree with a broken branch. And the objective is to remove the branch carefully without disturbing the power lines or knocking over the tree and really damaging the tree. So the branch must be removed all the way and be lower on the table than the power lines to be successful.
Okay, and our second mission? What do we got here with the pets going on?
So in this area we also have some objects. There's a variety of objects across the field. This is a pet, two pets, and one of the objectives is to take the pets and put them in a scoring zone with people. So get all the pets with their owners so that they are happy.
So a scoring zone with people would be like to our next objective that we have going on over here.
So this objective is a house that's in a bad zone, and it has a mechanism to raise the house. That is a scoring mission if they can raise the house by any method, moving the lever or any other method that they choose. We notice there's some other objects. Here's a person. We talked about getting the pets with people. We want to get there's some supplies on the field that we want to get with the people in a scoring zone. And here's a supply that could be very useful in a natural disaster, a motorcycle.
Okay. And that would be what we'd want to do with the pets here. We can move them into that zone and that would be a scoring?
Correct. So you get the people in with the pets inside a scoring zone, and that is worth points.
Okay. A scoring zone would be considered anything that has some kind of a color outline to it?
A colored box, that's correct. And some zones are worth more than others, and the players are targeting two particular ones, are the yellow and red zones at the end that we'll get to shortly.
Okay. All right, so after we've gotten both of those missions done, what would be some of the other ones that we have going on here in the middle?
Out there in the middle we have two that are highly visible. Here's a truck that's loaded up with all kinds of supplies. It has medicine and bread and water and fuel, and the truck itself is a useful item. The players can take this and get the robot to move it into a scoring zone, such as in the yellow zone, and that's a scoring position. And they can get that truck in there any way they see fit. They could even get it in there on its side and still a scoring item.
Now, one thing that I've noticed that we went through during competition earlier was with the ambulance. That has to be straight up. That can't be flipped over, correct?
That is correct, because who would want their ambulance to arrive on the scene and get itself involved in a wreck and compound the issue? So this is the same type of item. It has to be in the scoring zone. However, it must be in an upright position with all four wheels touching the mat to be successful.
Okay. One of the things, we accidentally bumped the table here. Now, we had the what we call the tsunami run here, I believe.
That's correct. So these 3 blue cylinders are representing water or a tsunami wave, and the objective of this mission is for the robot to come out and somehow get these cylinders off of the stand. They can activate it by using this mechanism, and that would be a successful scoring mission.
Okay. Now, what would be the next event that we would probably want to go to?
Well, if we're going around the table here, we have this structure right here, which is actually 2 buildings, and one of them is on a sliding platform and the other one is rigid, and this is to simulate a building that's designed to withstand earthquakes. And so the robot can come along and touch this area with the right amount of force, which will allow this building to slide and remain unbroken, and this one gets wrecked a little bit where you see the segments are separated. That would be a scoring condition where one building is damaged, the other one is safe.
Okay, moving on to our next spot, what do we have?
Well, we have 3 building segments in this zone, in this green zone. The objective of this mission is to get these building segments outside of the green zone any way they can. Additional points are awarded if they build a building in this pink zone. So a strategy might be to take these building segments out of the green zone and put them into the pink zone where they've built a 3-story structure in that zone.
What are these little spots that show up here?
So these spots right here are a way for the referees to keep track of the system and the game, and the robots are supposed to be designed so that they run autonomously. Occasionally they do get hung up on the field and the team can grab the robot and bring it back to base. If they do touch their robot, they are assessed a touch penalty, and that is signified by placing one of these pieces on the runway, which creates additional obstacles and more difficulty for the team to overcome later.
Okay, so now going into the pink zone here, right, that we had talked about moving the building over there, what do we have here?
In the pink zone, we have this evacuation sign to lead the way out to a safe area. The objective of this mission is for the sign to be erected such that it stays up where it can be seen, but not so hard that it actually falls over into a non-useful state again. So they have to have just the right amount of pressure to get that sign lifted. So we talked about there's various supplies across the field. This one happens to be a battery. Every supply, there's generators, batteries, motorcycles, and fuel, all kinds of things they can collect, and again, put them in a scoring zone with people. So here's a battery next to a person. That's a scoring situation.
Now, Steve, you had mentioned something about scoring zones, and I think I can see what we got going on here. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, we talked about the yellow and the red are scoring zones, but they might have a little bit more value to some teams. One of the objectives is to get the people, pets, supplies into a scoring zone, but they actually get more points for the yellow zone and the red zone. As a matter of fact, there's an end game where if they get the robot in the red zone at the end of the game, that is worth some points as well.
Now, I noticed that kind of working our way back around to this side of the table here, we have this is an obstacle course of some sort.
Yeah, this is a new approach this year, which is very exciting. It's an opportunity for teams to try things over and over again. So this is an obstacle course here, and the objective is the robot to cross as many obstacles as possible. However, the team can at any time go pick up their robot and try it again and again without assessing any penalty. So it's a good opportunity for them to try and keep their best score. The table is normally set up 2 tables back to back with one team competing on each table. That is a cooperative item. Either team can move the tire and rod mechanism back and forth, which will advance this rod, and each time it advances past a color, it's a scoring point. But either team can advance the rod, and both teams will receive the points.
So, Steve, the next thing that we're going to look at, and probably the final thing, which in all honesty I would probably prefer to try to do this one first, would be landing the airplane onto the runway. Can you explain a little bit about how this works?
Well, you see here we have an airplane which is on this zip line going over a runway. The objective of this mission is for the robot to come along and somehow release the airplane so it slides down the zip line onto the runway. If there are no obstacles on the runway, it actually receives maximum points. if there are some debris on the runway, it actually penalizes the team a little bit.
So when you say maximum points, how do we know that they end up with maximum points?
The referee will always give you a visual indicator. If it, in this example, the runway is clear and it went down that far down, the ref will push it all the way to the maximum scoring zone, in this case, the blue zone.
Remember, today it's all about having fun. And more importantly, use gracious professionalism and make sure that you're taking care of other people as well as yourself. Steve, anything else you'd like to add?
All I have to say is 1, 2, 3, Lego.